Welcome to the first episode of I Need a Change with Dr. T, me. So I'm so excited about tonight and everything that can possibly go on here on tonight because this is a cathartic thing for me to do. This is something that I have wanted to do for quite some time, but of course, me being the person I am, not liking to be on camera, not liking to do a whole lot of stuff before people, just want to just live life, I put this off for a very, very, very long time. But tonight is the first night of many, many, many nights, and hopefully there will be people who will find value in what I have to offer here, the talking that I have to do, the guests that I'll have on, the people that will be available to have conversation with us and to really just come and share dialogue. So I want to start with what exactly is I Need a Change. I Need a Change is about having intersectional conversations dealing with life, liberty, love, relationships, sex, sexuality, gender, and just life in general. The things that we need, the conversation that we don't want to have with one another or with ourselves sometimes, just to get through life. And so I want to be able to bring those conversations to life and to bring that intersectionality to the forefront. And that is the purpose of I Need a Change. And I will be the host of that show. In addition to that show, I Need a Change, I am going to do several other things that I have been wanting to do for quite some time. Once again, 5 other shows actually. One of them being Sex Talk After Dark, dealing with sex toys, dealing with sexuality, dealing with really intricate levels of dealing with our sex and being sexual beings, regardless to how we are religious beings, some of us. So I want to deal with the sex. I want to deal with things that people do in the dark and are afraid to expose that. Expose themselves to the reality of life. So I want to deal with that. Also, the other show, Be Cooking with Mother, of course. I'm going to be getting back doing that very, very, very soon. I've been very, very, very busy relocating back here to Houston. Has been very taxing on me financially, emotionally, psychologically. Any way you can think, it has been taxing on me. Not because I don't have the support mechanism. I have plenty of support here. I have plenty of support even in North Carolina. I'm so grateful for the support of my family and my friends and those who I have chosen as my family. So I'm very grateful for the support on both sides of the world. But just being here at my mom's house, being here, having to deal with the reality of her transition has been it's not been a very easy thing, and I'm so grateful to Shantae Armstrong, and she has been a lifesaver for me. She's rebuked me several times and made me come to her house many times, so I'm grateful to her for being that friendship, that friend, that sister, another sister that I needed, and I appreciate her for just being present in my life. Then another show I'm going to be doing is Encounter the Kingdom. It will be dealing with Bible studies and things of that nature. So, of course, I want to ensure that people have a good working knowledge of Scripture, because a lot of things that go on in life scripturally, it's just not right. So I'd like to go ahead and try to deal with those kind of things as well. Some of those things in Scripture that people have really taught and misrepresented, and I want to bring some things to the forefront, including dealing with sexuality in the Bible, and how the Bible is a sexual entity, so I want to deal with all those kind of things. And and the last, of course, is I'm thinking about doing this because one of my friends told me I should do it because he said I'm funny. I don't really think I'm very funny, but he thinks I am. But it's a parody of Old School Holiness. So I'm really thinking about doing that. It's been funny for me just to even consider, but I'm really thinking about doing the old school holiness parody. You know, but I'm not gonna get dressed up or anything like some people, but I'm gonna do me. Anyway, so welcome everyone to I Need a Change. I need a change in my life. I need a change in my finances. I need a change in all these different areas of life that we need our changes in, but we don't want to grow up. We don't want to have those changes. We're afraid to go into those changes. So I just want to make sure that everybody who needs a change is able to have the opportunity to receive that change. In addition, just to tell you a little bit more about myself, I have several degrees in theology, in psychology. I am a certified life coach. And a transition coach as well. I have been through so many things in my life that I have had to truly rebuild myself and my self-esteem so many times for myself, just to give myself a chance to have a change. Please understand that having a chance to have a change is so important, and a lot of us, we don't realize the chances that we have in our lives and the chances that have been given to us countless amount of times in order for us to make changes in our lives, in order for us to grow and develop into the persons that we need to be, that we're supposed to be, in order to effect change in other people's lives, to give other people other chances to grow and develop into their own lives. So I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to have the chance to have a change. And so that's my premise of I Need a Change. And so the purpose on tonight is dealing with the movie Respect by Aretha Franklin, or the Aretha Franklin biopic. That movie, so I wasn't even going to go see the movie. I'm just going to be honest. I had no inclination, neither desire to go see the Aretha Franklin biopic. But then what happened was Friday, what I did last week, I got a movie pass where I can go see any movie, pretty much anytime, any day of the week for free. I pay like $24 a month and I can see any movie in the movie theater at Edward Cinemas anywhere in the country. So I decided, you know, that's what I did last week. So I went to movies like 3 or 4 times last week. But anyway, so Friday, what happened was I was, you know, minding my business and I was over ear hustling, and someone said, "Oh my God, I'm going to see the movie tonight." And I said, "What movie you going to see?" They said, "Well, I'm going to see the Aretha Franklin movie, Respect." I said, "Oh, it's out." I said, "Okay, well," and then I went to my phone. I got my phone out. I started going through, and I saw that the movie Respect was playing at the movie theater by my house. And I said, well, I don't want to go home Friday. I don't have nothing to do. I don't have anywhere to be. I don't have anybody to be with. So I said, let me just go to the movie theater and see Respect. So when I left work Friday, what I did was I went to the movie theater and I got there about 5 minutes before the movie was supposed to start. I think the movie was supposed to start at like the quarter, not a quarter after, but 3/4 after, 6:45 or something like that. And so I got there at like 6:44, 6:43, something like that. So I went and bought the, you know, I went and got the ticket, paid my little thing. And then I went into the movie theater. I went to the very, very back of the theater, like I do, sit in the very back at the very top. And I wanted to get there at the time of the movie turning on because I didn't want to miss anything, you know. I didn't think about the whole fact that there will always be, what do you call those things? The things that play before the movie. I forgot what you call them. But I didn't realize the fact that, you know, those were going to be playing the previews for other movies. So from 6:45 until 7:15, I sat and I watched previews. And I played on my phone. I watched previews and played on my phone. I had no idea that they were going to, you know, all this, you know, download this app, shoot stuff down on the screen. I mean, if I would have known all that, I would have stopped and got me a little sandwich or something. But I didn't. Anyway, so I'm sitting there. I did what I did. Movie lights start going down, dim and everything. So I put my phone away like a good moviegoer should do. So let me take this off, by the way. So, so I put my little phone down. I turned it off. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then the next thing you know, the movie comes on. And it's about Aretha Franklin. It's a little girl. She is a little bitty girl, little young girl who loves to sing. She was in bed when the movie first came on, and her dad came to get her out of bed, and she went downstairs and she sang bebop, something bebop, to her dad's friends downstairs in their house, and then he sent her back upstairs. One of the things that she loved to do, she loved to sing, and so I love the fact that she had such life, such vitality, and it reminded me so much of even myself as a child, how much life and vitality that I had with myself. I was such an outgoing child. I was such a I loved everybody. I loved to be around people. I loved to talk to people. I loved dealing with people. I just loved people as a whole. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching the movie and I'm loving her life and her energy, and she's just going and giving it her all and singing the very best that she can sing and doing the very best. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, great. This is wonderful. This is good. All right. I like the way this is starting. And so I watched the movie a little bit more, and one of the things that triggered me almost immediately was when Aretha was, she had went out to be with her mom, and her mom told her that don't let, don't be forced to sing. Sing because you love to sing. Sing because you want to sing. Sing when you want to sing. And one of the things that I realized about Aretha as a child was that she loved both of her parents. She loved her mother. She loved her dad. And she loved the fact that she could please both of them. And so she did the best to do, she did her best to try to please both of them and do the very best towards both of them, trying to make sure that both of them were happy, even though they live in separate households. So she got back home to her father, and Aretha was upstairs once again, another bedroom scene. She was in the bed, and then this young man comes into the room, and he says to her, Aretha, or Riri, or whatever he called her. I can't remember what he called her, but he said, why are you not downstairs singing it? And she was kind of huffy puffy, said, Daddy didn't ask me to come sing, with a little attitude and all that kind of stuff, and then he asked about her having a boyfriend. Now Aretha Franklin at that time was a little girl. Like, when I say a little girl, I mean like a little girl. She was like 10 or 11 years old, maybe 12 at the oldest, and he was like, you have a boyfriend? And she was like, no. And then this grown man says to her, I can be your boyfriend. We can have a lot of fun together. And it reminded me so much of something that happened to me as a child. When I want to say I was in the third. I don't even think I was in the third grade yet. I think I was in the second grade. First or second grade. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I was in the first, second, or third grade. One of those places. But I remember there was this young man that my sister, she had something. They went to school together. Him and my sister went to school together. And my sister told me, she asked me to go take something to him. And I went to go take something to him. And he touched me. And he not only touched me, but he pretty much molested me, physically molested me. And he told me that if I ever told anybody that, he would kill me and my family. Now, somebody that's in the second, third grade, don't think like an adult. And so I didn't go home and tell my mom what happened. I didn't go home and say, Mom, this and that happened to me. I didn't do any of that. What I did was I went home, and I was afraid that because I was in a lot of pain. There was blood. There was this clear white stuff, and it was everywhere, and I was just so confused. And I immediately became that person like Aretha. I immediately became a very quiet introverted person who did not want to talk to anybody, who didn't want to deal with anybody, who didn't want to say anything to anybody. And so I went from being a very outgoing, wonderful child to this very introverted child who could not express anything outside of being able to write it. So I learned how to write very well, but I wrote down everything from that point. I never told my mother. I think I was 27 years old before I told my mother that happened to me. I was 27 years old before I said, and I couldn't even tell my mom face to face. I literally wrote my mother a letter and I believe I was living in, I think I was living in Louisville, Kentucky, and my counselor told me that I needed to write my mom a letter. So I wrote my mother a letter on college ruled paper. It was 20 pages, front and back. I wrote my mother a letter, and that is when I revealed to my mother that I was molested when I was, in the first, second, third grade. And not just that, but several times when we finally moved, to Missouri City. I was molested there by the next door neighbor. I was molested by a couple of people up around the corner, around the street. I had never told my mother these things. And so, and as a child, I thought that if I would have not changed so much, I went from this outgoing, bubbly, wonderful child who loved people to this very introverted child who did not speak to people, who did not talk to people, had a bad attitude towards people. I didn't trust men. I didn't trust women. I didn't trust anyone. And I thought that my mother should have been able to pick up on the fact that I changed so much, but she didn't. And the reason that she didn't, and as a child, I was very angry with my mother for not picking up on the fact that I was a hurting child. I'm your child, but I'm hurting. And I was so angry at the fact that she didn't pick up on that reality as a child. Now, as an adult, I understood. As I got older, got grown, I realized my mother literally worked 2 full-time jobs and 2 part-time jobs just to make sure that me and my sister had every single thing that we wanted, not what we needed. She could have worked 1 job and got everything we needed. My mother made sure that me and my sister had every single thing that we wanted, everything that we asked for we got. And I later realized even my mother was dealing with trauma herself from leaving me and my sister with my father in Louisiana when she moved to Houston. She was dealing with trauma for many, many years, and I didn't even realize that until me, my mom, and my sister, we had a conversation when I was maybe 24, 23, something like that, when we had that conversation that she felt guilty about leaving us with our father, who was somewhat abusive towards me and my sister, to get back at my mom, whatever the case may be, however that went. But he was somewhat abusive, and she felt guilty about leaving us. And she felt so guilty one day that she literally came and picked me and my sister up, got us in the car. It was during the summer. I will never forget it. She came and picked me and my sister up. We got in the car, and we started on the way to Houston. And when I woke up, we were in Houston in an apartment. You gonna be going to school out here from now on. This is gonna be your new house. Had no idea the dynamics that were going on as a child. I just knew, I'm gonna be able to be with my mom now. Great, wonderful. I was so happy about that. And so finally, when so she was dealing with all this emotional trauma herself about leaving me and my sister in Louisiana with our father, her husband or her ex-husband. I don't know if they were married. If they were still married or just divorced or separated at the time, but leaving me with the man, the father of her children, and she was dealing with that trauma for many, many years. And so I was very, very angry. And I saw myself in Aretha when she had to go through that trauma of being molested as a child and getting pregnant as a child and still wanted to be pleasing to her parents, still wanted to be pleasing, well, at that time, to her father, and becoming this very introverted individual who really didn't know whether they were going or coming, or what she wanted to do. She just knew one thing. She wanted to sing. She loved to sing. That was her biggest thing. And even though at that time, right then, right after all that happened, right after her mom died, she could not sing. She had no words. She had nothing to say. She didn't want to talk. She didn't want to sing. She didn't want to do anything. But it was her dad who pushed her to sing at a Sunday service. But it was the minister of music who said something, who left a light inside of her, that sparked a spark inside of her. And I got some notes right here, so just give me a moment. So he said, music will save your life. And when he said music will save your life, I was in the movie theater and I was kind of crying a little bit, little tears started coming, because that's my story. I love to sing. I love to do things. I love to go places and have experiences of life. And I love music. I'm a choir head. James Hall is my favorite. It's my favorite artist, bar none. Ricky Dillard, Hezekiah Walker. Them is my peoples. So and of course, I'm gonna say this, and because I will never forget, there is one person in my life who, well, actually there are two, but there is one in my life who's been in my life for, I think about 20, I'm gonna say about 22 or 23 years. And I've shared this with him, of course, but I'm gonna share with everybody, Jay Bass, JL, his music saved my life so many times. There were so many times that I was gonna take my life, and his music is what brought me to a place of being okay. One of the songs, my favorite song that Jay Bass wrote is "You Don't Have to Go Through Life Alone," and that song in and of itself, it did something for me, because so often I have thought I was alone, and I didn't get on here to cry. Excuse me. Oh my God, my eyeliner gonna be running. But, so many times I thought my life was just, why? What is the purpose of my life? I can go to school, I get all these grades, I can do all these other things, but what is the real purpose of my life? And why is it that no matter what I try to do, things always get in the way, and I end up being in this place of distortion, or this place of not able to function, or this place of depression, or this place of suicidal ideation? Why do I always end up in these places? And one of the things that Jay Bass's song, "You Don't Have to Go Through Life Alone," that was one of the songs that really brought me out of a depressive state. And many times to this day, I still listen to it often. Because even though he's there, even though I know that my family's there, and my my chosen family, they're present, I know they are, and I know I can count on them. But at the same time, there are so many times that I have to go through things just by myself. And not just that, but it was just that whole thing, dealing with the music of Aretha, or dealing with the music, and that whole thing of music, it'll save your life. And that's one of the ways that music, that Jay Bass music saved my life, because at that time, during those times, guess what? I love to sing, and I would always sing my way out of depression. I would sing my way out of so many issues that I would have in my life. But then all of a sudden, my voice, I went to Jay Bass recording studio, Jay Bass Ministries recording studio, and we laid the foundation tracks for a CD recording, Hebrew CD recording that I was doing. We laid all the tracks for all the songs, the foundational background tracks. And literally, I went home, and the next day, I didn't have a voice. And I would not have a voice, unbeknownst to myself, I would not have a voice for 3 years. 3 years I didn't have a voice. I could not sing my way out of my depression. I could not sing my way out of confusion. I had nothing to sing my way out of, and I'm not one of those people that can sing in my head. I needed to audibly sing out loud to myself, and for 3 years I could not. And so it was Jay Bass's music that helped me to get through those hard areas in my life, and I'm so grateful that God gave those songs to Jabez in order to minister to my spirit and to my soul, and to bring me back to a present reality of me not having to go through life alone, and that there are people and God who is always present to help us in any time of trouble. Now, you can call God the universe, you can call God your mama, you can call God whatever you want to call God. However you see God, that's how you see God. How I see God is how I see God, or the universe, whatever. So that's where I was, and that whole thing, music will save your life, and not being able to sing, it was Jabez's music that saved my life during those times. And but during that time, I even saw Aretha Franklin, and how she was singing. She was singing. She was doing the thing. She was able to do the thing that she loved to do. But one of the biggest things that she had in the back of her mind, music will save your life, because she kept singing, because that's what she loved to do. But she could never step out into her own sound. She never stepped out into her, it took her years to literally step out into the fullness of who she was. And all the time that she was trying to step out into that full place, guess what? She was undergoing clinical depression. She was clinically depressed. And as someone with degrees in psychology, I can literally say she was clinically depressed. And her clinical depression for her led her to all these different areas in life of wanting sexual she was very, she liked the men, and it's all right, because I like the men too, so she was in these different places, in these different avenues of dealing with men. And then she started, and she never got into the drugs, and I'm grateful for that. I'm glad she never got into the drugs, but she got into the alcohol so heavy, because she was clinically depressed and tried to take away all the pain and all those different things. And her dad always said one thing, and he would say that she has a demon inside of her. And it reminds me so much of the church, and how, anything that comes into the church that seemingly is against what we have taught to be right or correct, all of a sudden it's a demon. But we don't deal with the demon of, what is the word? The demon of abuse. We don't want to deal with that demon. As a matter of fact, we hide that demon, because so many ministers and leaders I've known, male and female, who are abusing their children and their wives, or their husbands, and or their boyfriends, and or their girlfriends. So we don't want to deal with the demon of those things. But the reality is, she didn't have a demon. She had unresolved emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, financial trauma. And so many of us have those same trauma issues. And what the demon is, the reality of it is, the demon within us is schizophrenia. We create lies in our heads over and over and over again, which don't even matter. We create these lies in our head, and they live constantly and incessantly in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls. They live over and over and over in us. And so what we end up doing is we end up reliving that moment, the moment of trauma, the moment of abuse, the moment of issues, the moment of sadness, the moment of whatever the trauma is. And then we have a response to that trauma, and usually that response is never a good response. It's usually something that seeks to hinder our lives. It hinders our growth. It hinders our availability to people. It hinders everything about us, our emotional growth, our emotional stamina. It hinders every facet of the human condition in which we experience. And we then experience life not through the reality of what life is, but we then experience life through the reality of the emotional trauma that we have lived through. And so the schizophrenic part of us, we call it a demon, because we really don't want to deal with the emotional trauma that we've experienced. And then when we do want to deal with it, we don't really know how to deal with it, because we go to the psychologist, we go to the counselor, we go to the therapist, we go to all these different places. They give us all these different things. But a lot of times we're really not ready to deal with the emotional trauma they're in, because of the mere fact that if we have to deal with the emotional trauma, we have to deal with the hurt. We have to deal with the pain. We have to deal with the letdown. We have to be able to then let go of all of that stuff. And being able to let go is not the easiest thing, especially when we've been hurt to our core, hurt to our being, hurt to the very essence in the soul, or the soul of who we think we are. But the reality is we haven't been hurt to our essence, because once again, the essence of who we really are is the greatness that God has presented us to be. So, we dealing with all of those things, the demons and this, that, and the other. And even myself dealing with clinical depression. I mean, and there was some things that went on in my life. I was in a sexually, psychologically, emotionally, and physically abusive relationship for years. I didn't tell anybody. I don't even think I've ever told Jay Bass this. I didn't tell my mama. I think only one person knew that I was in such a relationship. And I was married to this man. And he was good at first, but then all of a sudden the slapping started, and then the punching started, and then the choking started, and then getting thrown through, head through walls started, and then being drowned nearly started. All of these different things started in my life, and I was there. I stayed. I was dealing with clinical depression, and then not only that stuff, not only that sexual abuse or those physical abusive things happened, but he wouldn't let me keep a job. Every time I got a job, he got me fired, because he'd come up to the job with a gun. So he made sure that I could not be self-sufficient. He made sure that I had to rely on him, that I had to lean on him for everything that I needed and wanted. And this man made my life a living hell, and I stayed. And then not only that, but then he introduced me to something called the lifestyle. And the lifestyle is the BDSM lifestyle, bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism lifestyle. And when I was introduced to that lifestyle, I was completely against trying to do this. But he told 5, listen to me very carefully, 5 men that I was a sexual slave. And that I liked to be beat. I liked to be hurt. And it turned me on sexually to be hit on, to be beat, and to be hurt, and to be bitten, and to be beat with rulers, beat with their hands, or beat with paddles. It turned me on. That's what he told these 5 men. And I was forced into sexual slavery to 5 men and my husband. At any point in time of my life that they wanted to be with me, I had to be with them, because if I did not, my ex-husband would literally come and beat me fist to face, choke me, until I would say okay. And then this is a demon for me, because after a while, I never liked the abuse. I never got into the abuse. And I think that the other men, they began to understand that I wasn't really a slave, and I wasn't really into the abuse. And so what happened with those 5 men is those 5 men understood, and they got to know me, because they stopped just coming for the sexual favors that I was providing. They would start coming, okay, you're cooking dinner, I'm finna come over. And they'd sit and talk with me at the table while I made dinner for my husband. And they realized I wasn't into all the things that my husband told them and lied to them about. But they didn't stop coming. And eventually it was really like I had 5 very good husbands and 1 horrible husband. And so it wasn't just about the sex anymore, because after a while I began to enjoy the sex. I enjoyed sex with the 5 of those men. I enjoyed it. And and that's at the point in my life that I became polyandrous. I didn't have a problem with being polyandrous. And the whole time, yes, preacher, teacher, leader, spiritual coach, all of these things going on in my life. And guess what? I'm still anointed by God to be. And so I began to like things that were forced upon me. And I believe that the same thing that happened with Aretha in the story, when she was forced to have sex with that man, she began to like those things. And so she still had to go through her process, and I had to go through my process of liking and loving and actually dealing with the fact of, I love to be involved sexually with these men. I also am loving the attention I'm getting. I'm loving the dates that we're going on. I'm loving everything about these men. They're so attentive towards me. They protect me from my husband when he tries to hit me or tries to hurt me when they're there, so they were a protective mechanism for me. So I learned to love and adore these same men who started out as very abusive towards me, but I learned to love them because they ended up being my protectors when I didn't have anybody else and could not go to anybody else, could not talk to anybody else, didn't feel comfortable telling nobody else. I couldn't tell my best friends in the world that I'm in some relationship, that this man is beating on me every day. I couldn't say that. And Aretha, same thing. She made conflations for this man who beat on her, who hit her, who blacked her eyes, who busted her lips, who did all these things. And she still went on and on, introverted, and on she goes and goes and goes. And so that is how the story triggered me. That because I remember the things that I had to go through, the times that I wanted to go to church, that I couldn't go to church because I had 2 black eyes and a busted lip and a bruised rib. I wanted to do certain things that I could not do all the time because I had been abused so badly that I was black and blue from head to toe. And that led me to a clinical depression as well. I was clinically depressed and couldn't go to a counselor or anything. I couldn't tell anybody that stuff. And every time I'd go to the hospital or anything like that, they'd ask me if I was being abused. I would always tell them no, because I didn't want him to get in trouble. I really was in a place that, like Aretha was, I was in that place that I really desired him to be a good man, because I really believe in my heart that if I left this man, I would never be in another relationship again. And he made me feel that way. But guess what? It was also my fault. And the reason it was my fault was because I didn't have the inner strength, the inner beauty. I didn't have anything, the self-esteem, the self-worth, the value of myself to say this is enough. This is enough. I didn't have that value in myself. I had always torn myself down. I always, I called myself some of the worst names in the book. I was that fat, so, and nobody don't want the fat girl, so I literally went through life hating myself for years. And literally I'm 41 years old right now. I'll be 42 in December. And I think I just really stopped hating myself in my mid-30s. So, and I still deal with depression. I still deal with suicidal ideation every now and then. I just dealt with it in January I think it was it January? I think it was January. It was either January this year or January last year, when I literally ran up on the back of 5 18-wheelers on the way to church. And just so happens that when I get to my first service, the Pastor Curry, he preached about suicide and saying to people. And so I knew that was God's way of speaking to me. Whether, anybody else can see that and understand that. I knew that was God's way of saying, I see you, I love you, I'm there for you, and I got you. I just need you to hold on a little bit longer. And so I went to church that afternoon at my church service in Danville, Virginia, and I mean, I really was going through. I was so evil. I was so angry. I was so mad. I was so utterly disgusted with my life. I was utterly disgusted with everything, the way that my life turned out. And and that goes to show you, you can have degrees. You can have a great life. You can have people around you who love you. I really do have genuine people who genuinely love me for me. And I couldn't see beyond the fact of my life is not where I needed to be because my psychosis, my schizophrenia, the things that I'm going through in my mind, the way that I'm the things that I'm living to in my mind, the things that I'm living through in my mind. Let me just say this real quick. One of the things that I had to realize is that I don't find my true self and my true life in my past, or my true self and my true life in my future. My reality is right here, right now. Because the reality is, even though I lived many years through the trauma and the turmoil, and even there are times I still find myself trying to go into those routes, one of the things that I had to realize is that it's not happening right now. Presently, right now, I am sitting here telling you about how the movie Respect helped me to change my own ideology about myself because of what she experienced, and what I saw her experiencing was my own life. And I had to come to the realization that even though I went through those things, even though I experienced those things, that's not my reality right now. And those things are ghosts. Those things are trauma. Those things are demons. The demons that we have to deal with. The demons that we have to really say, oh my God, I went through it. But guess what? One of the things that is so inspiring to me is I went through it. I got through it. I got out of it. I'm no longer in it. I'm away from it. Because of that right there. Because of that simple thing right there, I've learned once again to sing my way out of the issue and to press into my present. And the thing about it is, I've learned to be present with myself. This movie taught me about the respectability aspects of life and how even some of my family members are disrespectful towards me. I love my family. My family, I believe with all my heart that they love me, but they don't always respect me. And one of the things that that this movie has taught me is that regardless to what they do, I have a responsibility to myself. I have to be responsible for me. And I have to be able to support me. And I have to be able to respect myself. And until I seen this movie, I did not understand how disrespectful some people have been towards me just being myself. And so this movie really has helped me to say I need a change in my life with regard to respect. And to say that I'm not going to demand respect. But if you can't respect me, I can remove myself. Shouldn't have to demand no respect, especially if we're family, if we're friends, we're co-workers, we're close to one another, we call one another brother, sister. I shouldn't have to demand respect from you. It should be given on the very premise that you love me and I love you. I will never disrespect any of my friends because of the fact that I respect them. I love them. So I'm going to respect them. Even my son in Fayetteville right now, I love him to death. And I don't think I've ever done anything to be disrespectful towards him, even though I threw a wooden spoon at him one time and hit him in his mouth. But he deserved that. He deserved that. But I don't think that was disrespectful towards him because he deserved that. But the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this movie is I had to learn to be respectful of myself and be respected by myself. And I'm not going to force no respect from nobody. I'm not going to force nobody to respect me. But what I am going to do is I'm going to ensure that I have respect for myself. And in doing so, sometimes some people will have to be cut off. I love you. But if you can't respect me, if you can't be the person I need you to be in my life, not giving me anything outside of respect, then there's no reason for us to continue in any conversation or any type of relationship. So, and that's my story of about, you know, how this movie changed my life. Let me go to some of these comments. So J Bass says, I know the feeling of utter disgust towards myself. Yes, trust, yes, utter, total depravity, disgusted with everything, just your whole life. Yeah. Let me say some of my life. I saw some of my life too, especially as it relates to my music. I would have never imagined that she'd gone through so much and had the issues with listen. Going to the studio in a place backwoods, having to go see these people. She's going to record music. She's literally seeing people picking cotton on the side of the road. And then going into a studio with a bunch of white folk who really didn't want her there. And then these white men who turned her music into this awesome stuff, you know, and then having to leave there and having to fight her way with her husband because he's jealous. And then her husband fighting the studio owner. I mean, it's just a bit much. Let me see. He probably needed to be slapped in the mouth knowing that much. He did. He definitely did. But that's been my issues. That's been my take on dealing with the movie Respect, and I'm so grateful that I got a chance to see it, and I'm glad that I went to see that movie. And I'm so glad that you know, some of you would come on tonight and share with me, you know, your feelings, your feelings toward not just the movie, but the things that I've said. And if this resonated with you in any shape, form, or fashion, please feel free to share this video with your friends and family. I have a whole lot of stuff coming up, y'all. I am finally in a place where I'm looking to pursue my dreams and my visions and my goals, and, you know, and really just step out there and really pursue the things that I really have always wanted to pursue and wanted to be, do, and have. I've written a book years ago, and I'm going to be writing some more books. The book, The Fear, Are You Afraid to Talk About It is the name of the book. Are You Afraid to Talk About It, you know? Or no, that's the workshop, sorry. Fear, It's Not an Option. That is the name of my book, Fear, It's Not an Option. And I wrote this in 2010, and I went through so much stuff, and I had to write it as an experience of my life. Because what happened in that book was the last chapter talks about being selfless. And I gave my life to being selfless for so long that I think that is part of the reason why I became so depressed and so depraved and so utterly disgusted with my life, is because I was so selfless. I forgot about myself. I forgot to value myself. I forgot to look at myself as an authentic representation of God and an authentic representation of myself. And I gave everything about myself away in order that everybody around me is all right. And so I went to this place. So I'm learning to become selfish, or I have learned to become selfish. Not selfish to the fact that I, won't give anybody, I won't do anything for anybody, because, as a person, as who I am, I'm a giver. I'm going to always give. That's just me. I'm going to always give. But I know now the difference between being able to give and giving everything away and leaving nothing for myself except for hurt, pain, disgust, utter disgust, and total depravity of the psyche, total depravity of the self, which led to depression and suicidal ideation and all these other things that it led to, you know. So I've learned to become selfish because I have to hold on to something for myself. Because if I give everything away to everybody all the time, guess what I don't have? I'll never be able to have me. And so tonight you have tuned into I Need a Change with me, Dr. T, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I am so grateful for any experiences that you've had. So my question is, if for those of you who are on, do you have anything you want to share? Do you have anything that you want to ask, any questions you might want to ask? Please go ahead and ask them now. Or if you just want to share something that you want me to read on screen, I'll do that as well. Just let me know. I'm happy to do that as well, just to make sure that, you know, all hearts and minds are clear. J Bass said, my thought is God knew we'd be here today, even when we were going through then. That's true. That's one of the reasons I'm personally able to enjoy this present moment of peace and pursuit. And yes, it's nothing more that I can say towards that. I can't say anything better than that. You are 100% correct. God knew, the universe knew, you know, we would be here. And I'm so grateful that I am here and that I'm present in my presence and in the presence of the Almighty that lives deep on the inside of me. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. Yeah. And read my comments. I read your comments. Anyway, we're gonna need to talk about some of this during the conference next Saturday. That's fine. That's fine. I'll be happy to talk about these kind of things, because, you know, one of the things that I've realized is that even from the movie is that we go through so many things secretly, and maybe some people might know, one person might know, two people might know, but nobody really knows the extent of everything that goes on because you're not there. And it makes a difference when you're present and you're there and you're in a place and you're actually going through the process. It can really ruin your mind. It can ruin your emotions. It can ruin your relationships. One of the things that I realized today is that my relationship with my ex to this day, it is still like present with me, because I cannot develop relationships with people because there are certain things that I have learned to, I expect certain things. And if you can't give me those things, I'm out. Period. Point blank. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because of the fact that I refuse to go through what I have been through. And that's more trauma for me that I still need to work out, because one of the things that I'm learning about relationships, inevitably, there will be pain. There will be pain. There will be hurt. But what type of pain and what type of hurt, you have the responsibility, and you have the what is the word? You have the control over what type of pain you're willing to deal with. I'm not willing to deal with what do you call it? Physical abuse. I'm not willing to deal with it. And so somebody simply says to me, I'll slap you. I'm done talking to you. We don't have there is no more conversation that we need to have at that point. So, you know, it's your that's it, Jay. Responsibility to filter all the stuff that comes at us. It's our responsibility. And if we stay in something, then I would say this: if we're going through something that we don't want to go through, you know, with respect to relationships with other people, and I'm not just talking about intimate relationships with our husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends. I'm talking about with friends and family. I'm talking about with coworkers. If we continue to go through those things, we must then look inside of ourselves and find the deficiency there. And when we find the deficiency there, we have to do the work to dig up the root of that deficiency and to then go on, dig it up, throw it out, and replant something that we could use. Excuse me. Because in no shape, form, or fashion can we use anything that's going to hinder us, that's going to cause us to second guess ourselves, that's going to cause us to question our abilities and our dreams and our goals and our desires and our skills. So this is my take on what happened in the movie, and I am so appreciative of those of you who would come on tonight, and I'm appreciative of those who will see this in another place, in another time, and will share this video with other people. I will be taking this video and I'll be downloading it, and I'll be doing some editing of it and uploading it to YouTube and putting it on my YouTube channel, because I'm trying to grow my audience on YouTube as well, so that, like Jay, I want to go YouTube live too, you know. So I plan to do a whole lot of things with my life, and I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to share their life stories and their life experiences, because the reality is, it is through the sharing of our lives, it is through the sharing of and the openness of being open with ourselves and our lives. It is through those things that we give people a chance to change. This has been I Need to Change with Dr. T, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight, and I appreciate all of you so much for attending. For those of you who will attend in the future, please keep a lookout for all of the different wonderful things that are coming up, and of course we're going to have some other guest panelists on the show. Many times we're going to have people on the show. Of course, I'm going to have eventually Torian on, my son. He's going to be on it. I'm going to be chasing him around the house with switches and things. So, amen. But it's been a great show, and I'm feeling great. I was very nervous about being here tonight, but I mean, I think I did pretty good. So, I appreciate all of you for coming, and I love you all, and you all have a great, great, great evening.